Hello, hello. Okay. Hi, I'm Sarper. I'm also from Molotropia. I'm one of those that just got merged over. Um, I'm going to talk about LibreOffice's Python API a bit, mostly my thought experiments about it, also some actual code experiments, but nothing to actually, nothing about the implementation of the API, more about the use of it while building an extension. So, first of all, yeah, why PyUNO to build an extension? I think it's kind of known if you ever worked with any extensions or anything like that. Using UNO from Python is quite trivial. It was also mentioned in the cool.js or Zeta.js talks that it has this Pythonic way of interacting with UNO. And Python is a widely known, kind of easy to grasp, pseudocode-like looking language to use. And it has this extensive library ecosystem that you can't easily use in an extension setup, but there are some projects on GitHub, I can't really name them right now, but you can use in your extension to actually pull stuff in from like pip and use them in your extension. So that's quite usable there. And this UNO helper implementation of PyUNO really helps you out all the way. But there are some also drawbacks with this nice Pythonic approach. It really simplifies everything to call functions, and you don't really cast any interfaces to any other ones, so you don't need to query any interfaces while you're using PyUNO. But there are some edge cases that you need to go out of the Pythonic way because in the end, the UNO API will expect this very specific type sequences and also some calls with very specific also type sequences in this case. So for instance, to create a LibreOffice's type of a short sequence, you'd have to go with this UNO any, and you describe the type as a string, and then you would pass in a tuple so that it is actually represented correctly on the LibreOffice side. And if you're calling a function that expects something like this, it can get quite huge, as you can see here in the UNO invoke call. You pass into object to the call will act upon. You use a string to define what call you're going to use. And yeah, also the type in the end, you also need to define that. So if you see the parentheses at the end, it gets quite horrendous. But I think this is something that could be improved upon. I already brought this up in February in Potsdam. Sadly, didn't really have any volunteer time to look into it. So this is still the case. There might be some complications with improving this with like backwards compatibility of the PyUNO interface, but yeah, something to look into for sure. And if you made a custom interface so if you implemented a service with an interface using PyUNO, then if you're, so let's say you are going to use an X shape and you made a custom X shape, to get the actual interface name, you need to do quite a bit of hopping. So you need to tap to the insides of the interface and use query interface only after you use get type by name from there. One last tips and tricks that I mentioned in the last talk in February as well is it's obvious if you use read README of PyUNO, which if you're doing extensions, I don't think no one will. But if you put a debug flag inside the PyUNO library and compile LibreOffice with that, you will actually see all the Python exceptions and prints that are normally suppressed by LibreOffice. Yeah, okay, this is repeating here. So since February, I also wanted to a bit continue with my experimentation around PyUNO, as it is quite obvious here that everyone kind of is aware UNO is extremely extensible. So you can implement custom dialogues, custom objects, even custom components, which is like component in the terms of writer, and calc is a component of LibreOffice. But in the, I think the community extension bubble, people are not really going for big bites. I think on the enterprise level, people are doing great stuff in UNO. Even other than these, a few big extensions, I think people are not really using the whole power of UNO ecosystem. So I had this idea to come up with a framework for at least changing the way to create new dialogues, create some custom document embeddable and saved and loadable objects and stuff like that. And this was this experiment is still in progress. I spent a few days on the Hack Week on this one, and what I achieved was you, for instance, to create a dialogue, you need to custom rendered dialogue, you need to use this thing called UNO control dialogue. Then you create a model, assign that model to that. You create a window peer out of that. You implement a custom paint listener. And lastly, you need to invalidate it whenever necessary so that it actually triggers the paint listener. But this is not really trivial to any kind of extension developer out there, I think. So bundling all of these together, what becomes possible is to use all of Python's library provided like plotting and everything like that. And also like you can have custom interactions in the dialogues. You can handle key input and everything. So, yeah, that's the idea. This is still in a very experimental phase where I have a prototype that I'm unable to show here because I don't have it on my computer. So if you want to see it, come. I can show you the prototype that it does some custom rendering and custom key input handling using an extension. But the possibility is there. So what I'd like to, at some point, if I get to continue this, is to have this whole custom painting and custom dialogue thing maybe also lay out automatically, dynamically, if you resize any kind of window or anything like that, so that it's a bit trivial to create dialogues and they're very usable. And yeah, creating context menus and stuff like that associated to shapes and objects could be way more trivial. I still don't want to abstract any actual power of UNO away, so it should still expose everything that comes from the UNO API, but it can abstract away this whole boilerplate that's not needed. Yeah, there are similar efforts that I wanted to mention before finishing off, which is a more spread on GitHub, has Python or dev tools that abstracts away all the UNO types. That's not what I'm exactly going for. Yeah, if you have questions or if you want to chat about it, you can find me. And yeah, I have a demo-like thing if you want to see that. That's all. Thanks.